Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christeen
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership. Good afternoon, Christeen. How are you doing today?
I am good. Today is a good day. It's a Monday. It's busy. So, it's good. How are you doing?
I am good. We just got back after a nice weekend, finishing at a Finnish fun celebration, Finnish fun weekend up in New Hampshire, celebrating Finnish, the country Finland. My wife's half Finnish, so we had a big celebration up there celebrating Finnish culture and history. So that was fun. 180 people showed up for this event up at East Hill Farm up in Troy, New Hampshire, outside of Keene, New Hampshire. So it was a good time. And me and my wife celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary.
Wow, you guys have a lot going on.
While we were there, and she got up to the microphone to announce, she said, Sinu Rakistan Sinawa, something Finnish like that for me, and which means the person I hate the least. So they don't. It kind of means I love you, but in Finland, Finnish, it means the person I hate the least, or something like that. So that was very funny. Everybody got a big kick out of that. So there was a lot going on. Yeah. So.
And you have a birthday.
A birthday
up,
tomorrow.
so
the big 6-0. Whoa!
Happy birthday.
That is.
Oh, it's a big one, even.
It is the big 6-0. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you gonna throw a big old party, or?
The party will be in Las Vegas in a couple weeks. The big party will be then. So, yep. So we're saving it for that.
It's going to be good times. Don't get in too much trouble there.
It will be a good time. So today we're talking about how a lawn application company can maximize profit in 5 steps. And this goes for other lawn care companies or lawn mowing businesses or landscape businesses. But today we're going to kind of focus on lawn application companies because that's my main focus in my business. And Christeen also works with a lot of lawn application companies. And I know many of our fans that are listening run lawn care application companies, but they also run companies that offer other types of services as well. So, but today that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I thought this would be a good conversation. It came up several times, I feel like, over the last couple of weeks when we jump on calls. And we're talking about, profit in a business and best practices and different, types of business models. And I always go down the rabbit hole of, really wanting to break things down when it comes to profitability and running the numbers on some things. And this kind of just tied to it. So I'm excited to dive into this topic today.
Yeah, and lawn care is super competitive. So if you don't really pay attention to your numbers and like how you run things, it's really hard to make a profit. But if you really pay attention to numbers and you really pay attention to how you run the lawn care business, it can be super profitable. And there's a big difference between knowing what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And when I was first in business, I thought what was most important to pay attention to was like what type of truck I had, how many microbes were on my fertilizer, what kind of spreader I had, what color my spreader was, and stuff like that. And what I learned the hard way was, yes, it's important to know all that stuff, but really what's important to know is how to be profitable, right? How to charge the correct prices, how much production we should be getting in a day, how to route, how many hours we should be working a week, what technology we should be using, how much things should cost. So, and I kind of learned that the hard way, and we're going to go over the 5 things that we can focus on to make sure that we're profitable and remain profitable. Number 1 is?
It's really understanding your daily routine. So, and when we say that, it's not just like, oh, what am I doing today? right? It's looking at more of, what do you need to deliver and how much do you have to deliver and who's going to deliver those things. Businesses kind of run in seasons depending on your market. So, I know in your your company, you switch services in the winter time. And then you go kind of like through a relaunch for your lawn application services, starting around mid-March. And this is very common in lawn care companies that they live in a seasonal market, right? Like I live in Colorado. We have all the seasons here. And there's many parts of the country, that they may not have extreme seasons as we do, but they do have seasons. So there could be that seasonal switch. So being aware around, what is your busy season? When do you start not having as, much going on? Like what's the cycle of your services that you're providing? Lawn application is one of them, just like lawn maintenance and landscaping or snow removal.
So being aware when the season starts and when the season ends, so how many payroll weeks you're going to have and how much payroll you're going to have during that time, when to be ramped up so you're ready, and making sure that you have the people in place. So when it's ready to roll, you are not behind, and also making sure that you don't have too many people, and making sure that your people are trained and ready and licensed and ready to do production when they're ready. We don't want to be surprised that, spring's here, we need to hire 2 or 3 people and get them trained. And we should already have production going. So we want to make sure that we know our lead and lag times on our hiring. If we're going to be going in the middle of March, we want to make sure that we're hiring in January and February, so they're training and ready to go in that second and third week of March. Also knowing that it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get ready. All the trucks have to be prepared. All the equipment has to be prepared. Everything, the training, the prep for the equipment. We need trial runs. We need practicing. We need to have training, paperwork updated. Anything that needs to be improved needs to be paid attention to. So we want to make sure that we're allowing ourselves enough time. We can't be doing that when we call it go time. When round one shows up, we need to be producing dollars. We don't need to be fussing in the shop, fixing stuff. So having a couple of practice run days before the season starts to get all the kinks worked out.
Yeah, and you may need more, techs during this time. So if this is your busy time, like the spring and summer months, then you'll probably notice as you're analyzing your information, looking at your historical data and making sure like you understand what's the cycle of my business when it comes to services and delivery, that they're going to be, depending on your business model, where you need an increase of team to deliver certain services. So, what does that look like? And making sure that you're building that in to your business model.
Yes, making sure that you have the people there when you need them. Because there's only so many weeks, especially up north, right? We only have so many weeks. And down south, it's the same thing. If you get behind on cycles or rounds, it's hard to make that up. Then you start making up with overtime, which is an expensive labor hour, right? And we don't want to do that unless we get a pinch. So next is optimizing work hours. So this is a big discussion we have in the green industry. And, one of the things that we have found is that for us, longer days are more profitable. And it really goes based on the startup times in the morning. And because when the guys have to load the trucks in the morning, they have to get ready, they load at night. And whether they're loading in the morning, at night, if they can stay out for a 10-hour day, we're making more profit at the last 2 to 3 hours of the day than if they only work for an 8-hour day, because there's the startup time and that drive time. We do service a really large area, so we have drive time. So our techs typically are driving 30 to 40 minutes to an area or neighborhood, and then they're working in that area or neighborhood all day, and then they drive back. So for us, the longer they stay out, the more profit we make during that day. So we will typically push for longer days, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday will be a little bit of a lighter day. But we have found, and I've also coached people, if you're running a short, we call it a short day, 8-hour day, it's really difficult to have a really high profitability.
Right. And what you're doing here is you're adding a couple more, stops on that route to where, you're gaining that profit at the end of the day. So that means that the technician does not have to drive back to the office, drive back to the route to finish the route or to continue something else. You're building just bigger routes is what you're saying. So that way they're working longer hours with that back and forth without that back and forth drive time and setup time.
Right. It's that launch period, right?
Right.
Once they're launched for the day, the longer they can stay out there within reason, you're going to have more profitability. So, and I know down south, it's really hot and it's hard to do that. Some companies will go to 4-day work weeks and do 10 hours a day. But, we have found, and I have the numbers over years that show that. Now in the summer, when it is really hot, we are going to start at 6:30, 6:45. We're starting a little bit earlier and sometimes, so it might only be a 9-hour day or 9.5-hour day, but an 8-hour, if you're running 8 hours and they are if they do have to drive and loading and the paperwork and everything, that means you're only probably getting about 6, maybe 6.5 hours of production. And that limits the profitability.
Yeah. So then to tie into this, another one is, when we're talking about efficient routing, right? So it's not just about like the 4-day work week, but efficiently routing, making sure that you have enough jobs to create kind of more of that 4 days of the longer routes. And Steve, in your situation, you're offering another day of a shorter route for your technicians. But this also saves on expenses when, the fuel costs and travel time. So this is what contributes to it. They're already there and you can save up to, 10 to 15% on your travel time. So let's just say that a company is spending $2,000 a month on fuel. And if they increase, really focus on the efficiency and increase the number of jobs they have on a route, then they could say, let's say, save $300 a month. So this could be $3,600 a year that they're just saving. And this is just an analogy on the fuel costs because they're not going back and forth and they're adding more jobs to that route. So it really takes out, unnecessary travel and allows the technician to complete more jobs, in the same, even less amount of time because they're not traveling back and forth.
Yeah, and once they get to that area, they can finish the day there. You do have to have enough customers to stay out in that route, or they have to, figure out if, depending on how they're routing, you can circle route. So you have, the technician will come back as they're heading back to the shop. They'll pick up another, 3 or 4 lawns. So you can also route that way. And that will be an efficient way to route. Is if they don't have it in that town, they can pick them up on the way back. So on the shorter day, how we'll route is we'll just route closer to the shop. So we typically have, they reduce the amount of drive time. So they're going to get the square footage and the dollars that day. They're just not going to drive so far. So the distance will be less on that day. So the dollars will be the same. But if we can't do that every day. We don't have enough lawns close enough to the shop to do that every day for all the techs.
Right. But it's being intentional about the routing, making sure, you're getting that capacity filled as much as possible on that route and adding some hours to the end of the day, which, I've heard you say several of times, the last couple hours of the day is all profit.
All money. It's the money. So a lot of times, when people ask me, hey, I'm having a struggle with making profit and really struggling with the money, I'll look at the work days and how many hours they're actually billing during the day and during the week. And they're just not getting enough billable hours. They're paying the guys 40 hours. They're billing 30. And it's hard to make money billing 30 hours a week off a guy when you're paying him 40. It's just, it's only a quarter of the time is unbillable. It's just not enough. If you're billing 40 and you're paying 50, that's a different conversation. Those 10 extra hours make a big difference. You just gained 10 hours a week, and it's a different ball game. So getting more billable hours per week, you want to get as many billable hours per truck and per person as possible. But typically it won't be 50 hours. It would be like 46 or 45 hours, and you'll get your, 40 hours of billable. So it's important. Those last 2 hours, that's where all the money is, because the first hours are covering overhead and it's covering labor. And so, there's, it's called surplus value, right? So what's after everything else is covered, that the value, the profit at the end, after everything, the truck, the overhead, the labor's covered, that's the profitability.
Yeah. And this gets even more unpacked if you're really curious about this concept. In chapter 8 of the book, there is a section towards the end of that chapter that talks about how to predict when to grow. And I completely unpack that whole process. And I did use numbers from Steve's company, his lawn care application company, to come up with all these figures. So it is based off of a company that's actually generating profit. We know this because he implements profit first. We look at his markups and margins, all those things. So in that chapter, I talk about the price of a truck, the price of a technician, how many hours they're going to be working, the potential revenue for the first year and the second year. So I unpack all of that. So if you're really kind of trying to figure out like, well, how do I sort this out? What does this really look like when we're talking about production hours and what a technician should produce and leveraging some of these? Go to that chapter. There is a tool in the toolbox as well that you can utilize to add all this stuff up and figure all this stuff out. So you don't have to sit there with a calculator and go, am I missing something? So it's a step-by-step process it walks you through, but it's very insightful. I go back to it regularly and look to see, I look to see what we outlined, and we use this in coaching. Are the clients that we're working with, are they charging enough? What are the areas, and kind of walk them through that as well.
And if your lawn technician is averaging $100 an hour and you can keep them out $200, 2 hours more, that's $200 an hour. That's $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
More in production, or right, $4,000 a month or $32,000 a year. That's per tech. Now, if you really have them dialed in, they're doing $200 an hour in production, right? And they do 2 hours a day. That's $400 a day. That's $2,000, right? Now we're talking big numbers, right? $400 a day, 5 days a week. That's $2,000. That's $8,000 a month times 8. That's $64,000 more a year that guy did. So that's how we can afford to pay our techs really well, because they're doing $64,000, $75,000, $80,000 more than other techs. So that gives us some availability for funding to pay better, get a higher retention. You keep the techs longer; they become even more efficient and more productive. So that really helps us. It helps them. The customer gets a better quality product because the techs know the lawns. So it's kind of a win-win. And because we're working in a 9-month season, they get a little bit of overtime. And so for us, it just makes everything much better. And you need less trucks because you have these techs, they're doing more lawns with less trucks, less equipment. Also, you save on the fuel, save on the truck payments, and it helps everybody out. Next is technology and automation.
Yes, that's one of my favorite topics. I love automating things. I love to remove the friction points and the gaps. And I love to do it to the degree to where it makes everybody's job easier. So we have looked at several companies over the years and found opportunities to automate. And the technology that is out, I always love looking at the lawn and landscape industry because I feel like they are a step ahead of so many other industries out there when it comes to software, and especially some that have been showing up in the last several years to where they're really looking at the industry and their pinch points and building the software around those. So they're really seeing this industry for where they need support and where the gaps are. So I love looking at these softwares and identifying all the opportunities in these software to automate things. And one of the things that you could do with these softwares is to automate administrative tasks, right? Or even communicating with the team or something like that. But you could easily, let's just say that you cut administrative tasks by 10%, where your admin person is having to do these things on their own. And instead, you're leveraging your software to send out reminders or re-sign notifications or messages about when their technician is going to show up at their house or anything like that. So it's saving 10% of your admin office time. So let's say that you're paying, $6,000 or $5,000 a month on these tasks for your admin people. If you cut 10%, just 10%, that's $500. So you could save $500 monthly just by making 10% of their tasks automated. And this could just be reminders, right? They're like, oh, it takes me this much time to send out reminders. Oh, well, we can have an automation set up for that. So really looking for opportunities can save you money and efficiency when you automate things and leverage that software. And I love this because there's a lot of things that our administrative team do not have to do. We're like, oh, well, you have to do them, yes, but it doesn't take a human to do them. I'd rather leverage their time for those touch points that do take a human to do them, right? And communicate with the customer, or even with the team versus, hey, this can just be set up as a reminder or an automation in our software. So I always like to create capacity, leveraging technology, especially with how hard it is to hire good people these days and find the right fit for the company. It really frees up the team that we have, and it allows us to leverage the team that we have without additional costs.
Yeah, technology is amazing. It saves so much time. So in routing, with the system that we use, we can have, we don't have to remember the mowing dates. We can put those in there. So it'll let us know, don't schedule these people on these days because they get their lawns mowed. Also, we have all the properties geocoded. So we make sure the truck's always on the right side of the street. So there's no turning around so it will route it. So the hose reel or the gate, we have custom carriers on our truck, so the Z spray can drop down on the curb, on the correct curb side, or the hose reels on the correct curb side. So everything is geocoded so that truck is always on the right side. The scheduler doesn't have to remember, put the truck here, or the truck driver, we're not turning trucks around. So having that automated scheduling is really nice. We do use that black box routing. We do have to tweak it a little bit. But putting these notifications into that program so we don't have to remember the mowing days or which side of the street is that on, helps with that automation a lot. Also, there's programs like Company Cam that help, like we have, so the techs, if they're trying to find a property that's difficult to find, they can pull the Company Cam up, hit that customer, and just click on it, and it will bring them right to the house. And we have it geocoded in Company Cam to bring them actually where to park the truck. So if it's a multi-pole property, if you have a large property that has multiple hose poles, it will show them where to park the truck. Or if it's a really large commercial property and they want to know where to park, they can hit that geo code and Google Maps will tell them where to park the truck. So they don't have to figure that out. It's consistent every single time. Also in the company cam, in that company cam, we have a property map of each property that has overhead of the property so it has green to be treated, red don't treat if there's non-treated areas, and a street view. So the lawn tech can pull up in 5 seconds what that property looks like from the road, what that property looks like from Google Maps, and where the property outline is on that. So every single property that we treat has an overhead map and it has a street map. So the techs can look within 5 seconds to find the property and what it looks like from the sky, where to treat, and what it looks like from the street. So they make sure they're at the right house. So these are some technologies that are nice. Also, auto billing, right? I mean, a lot of people are doing, you can set that up in QuickBooks. So people are auto billed. You don't have to wait to get paid anymore. The old days, I think there's some companies that are still hanging invoices, but this auto billing is just really taking a lot of stress off of companies, because I know we're really good at lawn care and landscaping. We don't want to chase money. We're not really good at that. We have less than 1% uncollectible, and usually it's because of people passing away, divorces, really weird circumstances. It's not because of customers not wanting to pay. It's usually some kind of unusual circumstance. But automated billing, it's magic, right? We know on this date this money is going to hit the account. All that automation helps quite a bit. So, and also, technology with payroll has been a big help, right? Everything's automated on payroll. The team comes in, once they're in this geofence, they click in, it's automated payroll, the reports are automated. So that has helped quite a bit.
Yeah, like we'll typically just review clients' payroll and make sure that the hours are correct and it's coming over properly, and then, process it. So there's so many automations, and a lot of what you were talking about, Steve, was automating things that increase productivity. And when we increase productivity, we in turn increase profit. So there's lots of opportunities to look at, what are the softwares that you have or you have access to? What can they do for you to increase that productivity? The geo mapping is a huge one. The Lawn and Landscape Technology Conference is one of my favorite conferences to go to, because they talk about leveraging technology in this industry. And some of the technologies that get brought to the table and that is shared is just mind blowing. It's really amazing, from the advances that they've made and what you're talking about with like the geofencing and what to treat and where to stop and, all those things. It makes it so much more efficient, in addition to some of the things that they have aligned with irrigation and water conservation and other things like that, which is really, huge in areas. Like I know here we have so much time that we can water our lawns, and so we're always looking at things of like, well, how can we, really leverage the amount of water that we have, and when's the best time to water, and, things like that. So there's lots of automations that can get set up with the technology in between routing, the irrigation systems, all these other things out there. And it's just amazing how it's continuing to increase profitability in this industry.
And the call aheads, text ahead, email ahead, automations are really taking a lot of pressure off people. Now, some people still love call aheads. Some people want only text ahead. So, but now it can be all automated. And also, people are wearing body cameras. Some lawn care companies are loving that because it protects them, it protects the client, and it's, saves some people. But because the clients have said certain things and they have it all on the body cam. We have not gone to that yet, but I've seen some different circumstances that it's really saved some people. People have gotten accused of things and that they were not actually involved in. And, so that body camera, I think, is going to be more of a part of the industry, or truck cameras are a big part, right? Forward facing and rear facing truck cameras. So one is facing the road, the other one is facing the driver. And we were at a consultation this summer and they had cameras on the drivers and front facing, and it showed some safety violations that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it also showed some things that protected them because they were accused of something and they weren't even where somebody had called in and said, hey, this truck did this, this, and this, and they looked at their routing and that truck wasn't even in that area. No truck was in that area, and there was no car recorded that this supposedly happened to.
Right.
So it was very interesting, all of those cameras and advances. It's such a benefit to the company to where it's looking out for the company and its employees.
Yes. And we GPS track all our trucks. And so our assistant lawn care manager, he's watching those trucks all the time. He's got them up on the screen. So sometimes in the summer or spring when it's like rainy here and there, he'll watch those trucks and he'll move those resources around. He'll be like, okay, in this part of the state, it's not raining, but it's raining here. Who's not a call ahead that we can go treat? So he'll actually move trucks and move techs around based on where the rain is happening. So instead of canceling the whole day, we can go do applications where it's not raining if the people are not call aheads. So that's another way technology happens. And we are watching those trucks all the time. And we've had that same thing happen. Your truck just, dropped a ladder off of it. Well, first off, we don't have ladders on the trucks. But second, it's like, nope, you're wrong part of the state. And we actually caught one of our landscapers. This was probably 4 years ago. He thought he was being coy. He was unplugging the tracker. Well, unbeknownst to him, that sends an alert to us. So he was going to get food and taking breaks and going to get stuff to drink, which led to his termination. But that he would have been smarter just leaving it plugged in and just telling us I was going to get a drink or going to get something to eat, and that would have been fine. But the fact that he unplugged the truck set the alarm off. Because we have a no, you're supposed to bring your drinks and food to work. But in the summer, if it's really hot and you run out of your drink, it's okay to stop and get something to drink. But we suspect there was other issues going on there. But he didn't realize how silly that was. And we also caught someone taking my personal truck on a personal tour from the company one time that led to her termination through that technology. And they didn't realize that until they returned back to the office and asked if Steve's truck had a GPS tracker in it.
Right.
So technology can be very beneficial in finding out things about people that don't belong in the company. So it can be very helpful.
Core Growth Strategies provides business growth management solutions through cloud accounting, bookkeeping, and strategic business consulting programs. Our team works with small businesses in lawn care and landscape and trade industries throughout the U.S. We increase our clients' business acumen by creating business performance transparency through financials and strategic advisement based on industry best practices and benchmarks. Our experienced team provides support, guidance, and coaching, thereby allowing our clients to connect with viable data and discover their own solutions. Core Growth Strategies programs and services are designed to get your business from where it is now to where you have always dreamed it to be. Visit us today at coregrowthstrategies.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't miss our exclusive limited time podcast special. Just mention promo code GPA Pro to any member of our team during your complimentary consultation, or enter the promo code on our site when you sign up for one of our online programs. That's promo code GPA Pro.
Right. So creating capacity and profitability in many ways.
And those terminations saved the company quite a bit of money. Actually did. It really, really did. All right. Next is cost management.
Yeah. So cross training. And I know this is something, Steve, that you do in your company. And we've talked about it before to where it's like, oh, we need a first line, we need a second line. And this is really, I think, something that is beneficial in every business. We as well do this in our company with the accounting and coaching and things. And we do it for a reason. And it's pretty much the same reason, we do this. One, if you cross train employees, it allows them to do multiple roles. So they know how to do their job. Oh, and guess what? They know how to do someone else's job. So that whole concept of job security and people working in silos, that goes completely out the window. And that cross training creates a lot of transparency. It also helps us cover things in our company where we don't need to hire an additional role. If someone knows how to do something, somebody can show up and maybe do 10% of that job over there versus hiring, a new person to come in because they have capacity. So, this is something I know, Steve, that you have done in your business. And I'd love to get some insights on that as well.
Yeah. So the cross training, usually we have people that move up into a position, and then the other person will move kind of up into another position. So one of the things, some people can move up and some people can move down. So like the lawn tech will move up into a senior lawn tech, and they'll move up into the trainer. And then they'll move over into, let's say seeding, and then they'll learn how to do certain repairs. So as they move up into each job, they're learning different responsibilities. It could be how to do like one-on-ones. It could be doing certain types of repairs. It could be learning how to do certain types of reports. It could be learning certain types of like lawn application techniques. So whether it's hose pulling or Z-spray. And a lot of times, and if you're a lawn applicator, you'll get this. It looks like their guys are just whipping that hose around or riding that Z-spray around, but they're putting down 2 gallons of liquid over 1,000 square feet, and they're going out with 300, 400, 500 gallons of liquid. So they're putting down, say, 400 gallons over 200,000 square feet, right? That's 2 gallons per 1,000. That is not an easy thing to nail every day, day after day, right? So 2 gallons of milk, you take 2-gallon jugs, right, and put it over 1,000 square feet, and do that all day precisely. Or a Z-spray. Try to spread 4 pounds of fertilizer over 1,000 square feet and spray a half a gallon or a third of a gallon of liquid. It's a lot of precision. So doing that both out of a hose and out of a Z-spray takes, some skill. And then also learning how to maintain these machines and just being able to recognize what's wrong with the machine. Oh, it's clogged. Is it the filter? Is it the tip? Is it a line? Is it the pressure? Looking at the gauges. So there's a lot of things you have to be able to identify. You have to have an awareness first. So whether it's the application or the repair, and then there's the management scheduling part of it. So there's a lot of different things to know about that. And also how to ID certain things on a lawn. So now you went from a lawn tech to the mechanic guy to, being the lawn pro, right? Is it a fungus? Is it what type of disease is it? Is it grubs? Is it just drought? Is there a rock an inch underneath the soil? And is it dried out from being on ledge? So being able to identify that. So there's a lot of different things that you have to be aware of. And so having the ability to do all that. But we need people to learn like each step at a time. And the other kind of thing that we've been focusing on this year, if somebody went on vacation or somebody was out, we would delegate back down. So the manager would take the role over. This year, we've been working on delegating sideways or up. So somebody below the person who's on vacation would have to step into their role. or somebody who is on the same side or level as them would have to take over their position. So the managers weren't delegating, they weren't stepping back into their old role. So that was something we've been working on. It's been quite successful. What's interesting to me is from this, when you give people the opportunity, they spring into it. I'm like so impressed with my team, how every time they've been given an opportunity, they leap forward into it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I've seen that happen on your team to where it's like somebody's, you had your internal accountant, like she had maternity leave. And the office manager, though she has so many things that she does on a regular basis, they figured out how she could cover her role and what needed to be done so for her to take her leave, which allowed you not to have to hire an internal person or even call me up and be like, Christine, do you got someone who can cover Nicole's role for a couple of months? It's just maybe helping Megan out. It was all figured out and it was done successfully. And that's done because of the cross training. So, and that can save a company, thousands and thousands of dollars a year when people know how to step in and take over people's roles. And, and I think it also gives them an understanding of what do my peers do in this company? And I get the amount of hard work that they do for this company. So it really gives them that perspective and some space for appreciation.
Yes, it does. And that's why, I'm always encouraging my office team to go out in the field and see what the field people do. Because I tell my office staff, you guys work hard, you do. What they do is hard work. Like when you're out, when it's 85, 90 degrees out and you're working out in the field all day, it's hard work. So, and a few of them have gone out there and they're like, yes, that is hard work. So there's a greater appreciation. And then when my field team comes in, I'm like, if they don't do their paperwork correctly, I'll bring them in, and instead of telling them, do your paperwork, I'll say, all right, fill this out, finish this. And they're like, well, I can't, I don't have enough information. I'm like, no, just fill it, just finish it. Like, I can't, I don't have enough information. I'm like, no, just finish it. And they're like, oh, I get it. If I don't give enough information, they can't pay me. I'm like, yes, yep, okay, now you're getting it. But until you ask them to do the job that it takes to do it, they don't get it. They just think you got to fill this out. But okay, finish payroll. Well, I can't because I don't have the hours. Oh, okay. So it's when you ask someone else to do someone else's job, the reality of what it takes to do that job quickly becomes apparent.
Yeah. All right. So our next one, and I'll just touch on this briefly, is performance incentives, right? And this is an interesting topic. So first, I want to say, before you have performance incentives in your business, you need to make sure that you have some sort of policy and facts that these performance incentives are based on. I know a lot of business owners, they'll be like, oh, I think my team needs a bonus, or we give out a Christmas bonus. And I'm like, that's excellent. How do you do that? What is it tied to? And it's usually tied to, well, I just think they deserve a bonus. Okay, well, why? What did they do? Well, they just worked really hard this year. So when we give out money in a company and we don't tie it to some sort of key performance indicator, some expectation being met, something along those lines, the appreciation for that money being given out is not as appreciated. It's just a give me, because if you don't know what they did to deserve it, guess what? They don't know what they did either. They just go, I got a bonus. So it's very important that, as much as a bonus system can increase profitability and efficiency in a business, we want to make sure that those incentives are really contributing to the results that we want. And not only you as the person who's giving out the bonus understands that, but your team members know, I got a bonus because I met my production for quarter one. I got a bonus because my job efficiency was X, like whatever it is. And they'll appreciate that bonus so much more and then be able to work towards the results and expectations as a business owner that you have.
So here's my take on bonuses. We give bonuses to the team. So when the lawn science tech, they all have a goal and they all get it. So sometimes to get that bonus, some techs might have to do crappy routes so other techs can do home run routes. Somebody might have to clean up something, the shop, or cut boxes or do something else so somebody else can go do something else. So we don't give individual bonuses. We don't give any solo bonuses. We all give it as teams. So when the team hits this mark or this is something they all do together, then they all get the prize. We don't give individual, even commissions, because there's so many people. If we hit a sales number, I have an inbound phone person, right? So if Jill answers the phone, she does a great job and she's friendly, we get more sales. Well, if, Meg does a great job with a follow-up, we get more sales. If Kyle does really good measuring it and getting it out quickly, the quote, we get better sales. If Pete does the follow, if it gets scheduled quickly and we get that lawn treatment out, the customer's happy and that we have better retention. So if we hit those things, then they get it. So I treat my whole company as teams. And so if the team gets it, then we win. Because when I used to do individuals, somebody lost. Either I lost, the customer lost, my employee lost, somebody lost. Somebody ended up mad at me or the customer or somebody, and it ended up being just awful. So when we went to the team concept of it, and with a little bit of a sliding scale, it wasn't all or nothing. We did all or nothings, and that didn't work either. I don't mean like they got a 8th place trophy, but if you hit this goal, you got a portion of it. And if you got that goal, you got more. But so we do it by rounds in lawn side, in the production side. And then we do a percentage of in sales. So it seems more like they help each other. There's more motivation, camaraderie. If somebody's struggling, the other person picks up the baton and, runs with it, as opposed to when you're just on your lonely self trying to win, there's no backstabbing. It's the opposite. It's that kind of team spirit around that. And so that's what we have found with performance incentives. Definitely for us, it works with a team much, much better.
Yeah. All right. And the next one is materials and equipment cost. And, one of the things that I've talked about in the past and Steve has shared, from his business model is when we buy in bulk on material costs, we have an opportunity to save 10 to 15%. And this is something that is thoroughly unpacked in the Lawn Care and Landscape Profit First book. So in there's several strategies that I share on this. But if you have a $10,000 cost on materials monthly, and you can save that 10 to 15%, that translates to $1,000 to $1,500 a month. So that prepaid material strategy is really great. And purchasing those materials in large quantities, not only do you get a price break on those materials, but it then allows you to leverage more of that profit margin on your materials as well. And you want to make sure you're ready for this. Like I've had clients that they're like, oh, I want to do this because it sounds like a great idea. And they're making themselves, cash poor and struggling because they're not quite there yet. So though it sounds like a great strategy to implement, and it is, make sure you're ready for this strategy for the size of your business. Profit First really helps support you in this process.
Yeah. So we buy bulk, we buy truckload, and we get it mostly shipped right from the manufacturers or the quarries. If we buy lime, it comes right from the quarry. If we buy fertilizer, it usually comes right from the blender. The chemicals we get mostly direct shipped, but start slow. Start with your chemicals, or start with just your fertilizer, or focus on early order programs. Talk to your salespeople. Buy what you can. If you have the room for it, you have to have room for it to store all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You might need a forklift or a set of forks on your skid steer. We used our Bobcat with forks for years to unload trucks. The one thing I wish I bought years ago, I should have bought a forklift. The forklift is the tool. It is so useful for everything, whether you're loading stones, pallets of rocks, pavers, fertilizer, lime, putting salters, sanders on trucks. I mean, it is just so useful. But, look at buying bulk. Definitely saves between 10 to 15%. And having the material on hand is definitely easier. But, don't try to do all your fertilizer and all your chemicals at the same time. Start out with what you can store and start out slow, and make sure that you're putting the money into your materials account through your profit first planning.
Yeah. All right. The next one is equipment maintenance. So, the more equipment we have, the more equipment we have to maintenance. So another reason to make sure that the equipment that you do own in your business does generate a return on investment. And Steve and I have talked about this a lot. I know this industry, lawn and landscape businesses, they love equipment. My advice is let someone else buy it and you go play with it. And then, you're not losing profit in your own company. So first off, make sure that you only own the equipment, or you have the equipment in your business that supports your business model and that you're making money on. So that would be my first tip there. The other one is making sure that you regularly repair and you keep a maintenance schedule on this, because this can save you a lot of money over time if you're ahead of it versus behind it.
Yeah. And what breaks usually, right? You want to fix things before they're broken. That old, dig your well before you're thirsty. Replace the filters before they are completely filthy. Put regular scheduled things in the calendar, right? When we used to mow, we would always start the season with fresh blades. Then at the end of spring, we would put fresh blades and belts on again. And then we would do fresh blades and belts again in the fall. So, 3 times. Do you need to do that? I don't know, but I know that machines always run better and faster and cut cleaner with fresh belts and blades on them. Make sure that you just have the stuff scheduled. Change the oil filters, do your greasing. One of the things that we love is the locking grease grease caps. So the locks that go on the grease guns, so you don't have to sit there and hold it. You can put it on and make sure you're getting a good pump. Grease fittings, right, that don't work, replace those. You can, grease fitting is like $2 or $3. And if that grease fitting doesn't work, you're going to lose bearings. And that is very expensive to replace. And, if you don't know how to maintain things, or you're struggling, have it maintained professionally. There are certain items we don't mess with. There are certain, on some of the bigger pieces of equipment, we have it serviced in the spring. We have it serviced in the middle of the summer. So, maybe on the backhoes, we don't mess with. We do service our own Z sprays because we just have so many of them. We actually have our own parts department for that. And we have policies and procedures just for the Z sprays. We probably know more about the Z sprays than any of the local dealers ever would know. So we service that. The trucks, we have a regular schedule. They go to the dealerships. We don't do anything on the trucks other than really manage the schedule. But managing the schedule on 30 vehicles is its own job, right? So making sure that you have at least a management schedule going on, even if you're not doing it.
Yeah, and there's also technology out there, softwares that can help you with this that are pretty affordable. I know that we have clients that work with them to where it doesn't only manage their asset, right? Where it's saying, hey, these are the age of our trucks and this is what's going on with MR equipment, but also helps with the maintenance schedule. And that maintenance, if we're looking at a piece of equipment and it goes down because it wasn't maintained properly, you're not only losing what it's going to cost you to fix it, you're also losing all the revenue for the days that it's out of production. So that's something else to keep in mind. Oh, and you probably have to go rent something so you can still get the job done. So then you're out that rental cost on that piece of equipment as well.
Yeah. Getting things taken care of before putting it off, kicking the can down the road ends up costing way more. I've learned that the hard way. Two things I learned the hard way is putting new parts in old pieces of equipment. They don't last as long. And then kicking the can down the road and not getting things taken care of when they should have been taken care of always cost me more money. So I learned that the hard way. So that's what I mean. Like putting new belts and new blades on works better than just putting new blades on, leaving old belts, right? Or spindles, right? Rebuilding spindles, just replace the whole spindle, right? It works better. You just replace all the filters on the pumps because, if one filter's dirty, they're all dirty. Just things like that. If you're replacing, if some of the hoses are worn out and are frayed and don't work well on the Z-Spray, probably all of the hoses need to be replaced. If you're doing the hoses, do the hoses. So those are things that I learned the hard way, because the thing is, you do one hose and then next week it's another hose. And then 2 weeks later, it's two other hoses. And it's just easier to break that machine down and do all the hoses.
All right. So our last one is customer satisfaction and retention. And I really like this one because I think there's so much opportunity here, right? It's cheaper to keep customers and get referrals than it is to find a new customer with marketing dollars. So, really looking at what's your customer retention process? Do you have some sort of loyalty program? Do you have opportunity for them to give you feedback on how your services are being delivered, how your technicians are performing? What does that look like? And so if you, let's just say, have increased your customer retention by 5%, it could increase your profit margin anywhere from 25 to 95%, right? And this is from company research. So it's actually from a research of hey, 5% of customer retention can increase profits by 25 to 95%. And where that's coming from is the marketing dollars that you would have to spend to get a new customer again and again and again.
Yeah. So we focused on retention really heavily. We were at about 79% and we got up to 89%, which is huge, a 10% increase. You're talking over 300 customers, right? And so if it costs you about $200, $250 to get a new customer, you're talking about $80,000 to $90,000 of savings a year. Or revenue-wise, it's $350,000 in revenue a year. So, over a 10-year period, that's $3.5 million in revenue just by increasing that retention by 10%, $3.5 million in revenue. And at a 20% plus net, right, you're talking over $700,000 to the bottom line. Easy. So you're talking a big number. And also the other part of that is when you have more customers, you get more referrals. And when you have more customers, you have more density. And when you have more density, you have more signs up and you have more trucks in that, and you have better routing. So you have more density. So you have more visibility. So you get more, eyes that call you. So it adds up and it builds up. So getting that retention. So how do we do it? Really was we found out who cancels. Who's the highest cancel rate? It was first-year customers. They don't sign up for the second year because they were disappointed that they didn't get the magic that, after 5 applications, their lawn wasn't beautiful as the neighbor who's been with us for 15 years or 10 years. So we really had to recreate the story or the journey that the lawn care journey is, and coach them through that and get them to the second year. So if we can get them to the second year, then they stay. So really the highest cancel rate now we have is moves, right? And I think that's the national average is moves. 4.5% to 5% of your customers, the cancels are going to be moves, right? Then you have deaths and divorce. That's another 2.5% to 3%. Then you're going to have another 2.5% to 3% that are just unhappy. And that's, basically in those number ranges roughly. So there's your 11% ish. So that's kind of what you're working for. But it was really that first year we were over promising, or we weren't clear on the expectations for the customer. They were over expecting. And when we focused on that and checking in with them during, how's it going? We'll have more weeds. Yes. Yep. Remember, we're going to come back in the fall and respray the fall weeds and the summer weeds. And yep, we're going to get that. We're going to get those violets in the fall. Remember, we talked about that. Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll send you a video explaining that. So walking through the journey on the expectation was a big part of that.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yes, I would say out of all the opportunities in the business, this is a huge one. And I think all the things that we've talked about prior kind of contribute to this, because some of the things, Steve, that you shared, it's really developing the processes in the business that support success with employee retention, with the, the customer retention, with making sure people know on the internal and external side, what are the expectations of your role as a team member? What are the expectations as our services to you as a customer? So all of those things really contribute to profit on an individual basis. But then here again, on that marketing side, which is a huge opportunity for re-sign for your customers, it supports that to, happen in the process.
It makes a big difference. Yeah. We weren't quite sure how we were going to how do we get the retention up, and some people, we came up with a whole bunch of ideas. Oh, offer them a low price, a discount. We're like, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't feel right. Why don't we just ask them why they leave and find out who left? And that seemed to be the answer. It was like, well, I thought my lawn was going to be a lot better, quicker. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? I can't go to the gym 5 times and be mad at the gym owner because I don't look like, who's the guy who plays that Thor guy?
Chris Helmsworth.
Chris Helmsworth. Well, I could go to the gym 5,000 times. I'm never going to look like Chris Helmsworth. But I can't go to the gym 5 times and say, how come I don't look like, a bodybuilder, right? Because it takes, if you want to do that, it's going to take dedication and years. I can't eat 5 salads and ask, how come I didn't lose 10 pounds, right? Lawns are very much the same way. It takes time, especially if the lawn's for crap, right? They have a huge weed bank that's been sitting. They got crabgrass, they got bare spots. I mean, their pH is like 4.2. And it takes time to get that lawn to fill in and the soil right. And we got to get some live microbes in there and some organic matter and some good grass seed in there. So if we don't, even though we explain that, they just see that truck and show up and they're like, oh, it's magic time. It really looks magical. And then we just have to keep motivating them so they continue forward. So that's the challenge.
Awesome. All right. Well, we went over some great strategies today to increase your profitability. Keep in mind that some of the stuff that we shared, it's really a journey in the business, but just being aware of these things can really change the opportunities in the business to generate more profit. So hopefully you had some tidbits where you can get started on looking into, those opportunities for increasing your profit sooner than later.
Yeah. Some good stuff today. Yes. I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast, and we look forward to you joining us on the next podcast. Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.